backlog of cases not yet prosecuted. What is your plan to clear up this backlog and streamline the process? And please explain how you do that. Okay, we'll start with Mr. Smith.
All right, tell me if you can't hear me, and we'll do something different. Certainly there is a backlog of cases, and I'll tell you, when I took over the Public Defender's Office in January of 2005, there was a huge backlog of cases. Since that time, I have personally handled over 2,000 cases, and our office has handled over 6,000 cases, for which I was responsible for supervising. So I know there's a huge backlog. Number one, we need to have some experienced people in there who are willing to step up and work with law enforcement to get those cases resolved. I hear it from law enforcement all the time. They turn things over to the DA's office and nothing is done with them. They keep getting questions saying, where is this? I've already turned it in to you. They have forms. You signed this saying you had it. Nothing has been done with those cases. They sit around and nothing is done. So my first step and my first goal in that regard is to make sure that we cooperate with law enforcement. Not that we're just there after they finish a case, we're there to work with them. And that's part of the DA's responsibility, is to make sure that we help the law enforcement prepare those cases so that they're ready to be prosecuted, and make sure that when those cases come up, that we're ready to go on them, and we have people who can handle those cases, draw the cases, present them to a grand jury, and bring them into court. Thank you. I turned it off, Bobby. It's making too much noise. I don't know that my voice is loud enough.
Okay, all right, man. I certainly agree with part of what David said. We must work with law enforcement. There's no question about that. And that is not being done. And the situation's been going on too long. That must be healed, especially in the area of drugs, because there's no one law enforcement unit that can handle the drug problem. That we must work together. I would like to think that with strong leadership from the DA's office can pull all these law enforcement agents together, and we can work to deal with that and move these cases along. Another thing I think would help is if we could, I don't know how this came to be, but in the probate court in Polk County, for example, the probate judge is not allowed to hear DUI cases unless they're just the first DUI. Well, that forces them up in the Superior Court, which has got enough cases to try it itself. I believe we need to shove those cases, if we can, back down to the appropriate courts and let them deal with it. Because, there's no possible way we can try every case up there. There's just too much. I'm not sure what the situation is in Haralson County, but it could be the same. But I think the probate court should be allowed to handle all those misdemeanors that are under the Georgia Code that are supposed to be handled there and not limited. So that's one of the areas I think also we need to utilize pretrial diversion. I think that's been lacking for some time now. So those minor misdemeanor cases, we need to utilize that. And we also could use more personnel in the DA's office as well. I'm not sure how that will play out. Thank you.
Stay here. You can do keep him from having to jump up so much. Second question is, generally speaking, are you in favor of actively pursuing plea bargains with nonviolent offenders so as to eliminate incarceration time as a way to help alleviate jail overcrowding? Why or why not?
I think that is sort of related to the last question somewhat. There must be attempts to craft some plea bargains in some cases, and we certainly do have overcrowded jails. I'm in favor of that, but not for every type of crime. I mean, some crimes just need to be driven completely home. The serious crimes, the drug pushers, and all crimes of that nature. real heinous crimes, maybe for misdemeanors. We made a mistake a few years ago in Polk County, in my opinion, by doing away with the state court, which handled all the misdemeanors. So now all that shoved into the Superior Court, which the DA's office has to handle that. So obviously, plea bargaining is part of the process, but it just takes good judgment from the people that work in the DA's office to decide which cases merit that and which ones do not. You know, I don't know exactly what goes on in the DA's office right now, but General Patton made a quote one time, General George Patton, he said, "You don't confuse leadership with popularity." And so if I get the opportunity to become the DA, there's going to be some significant changes made. So anyway, I got 30 seconds left. But that's pretty much it for me. But plea bargaining is part of the process, but it's just, you know, who can use good judgment. My real life experiences, I feel, have prepared me to lead in this effort.
All right, we'll try it again. Certainly, anyone who's been involved with the judicial system understands that plea bargains are a part of the process. And in a lot of situations, that's a normal process, and it's not anything that causes a stir. As Bobby pointed out, certainly certain crimes, there should be less plea bargaining. There should be more active prosecution. What I've experienced with our current DA's office and the way things are run now, which, like I said, I do it every day. I deal with it every day. There are a lot of plea bargains. If you talk to law enforcement, they'll tell you that the DA's office gives away a lot of cases. As a public defender, I certainly see that every day. I deal with it every day. I go in and realize that the DA's office just gave us a case. They just gave it up without even talking to law enforcement. So certainly there needs to be, again, some more cooperation with law enforcement about those plea bargains. I was talking to an officer today who was talking about, you know, I gave him some information and they told me to be ready for trial. Next thing I know, I did a letter saying the case had been dismissed. No explanation, no reason why, the case was gone. So certainly that's something that we need to work on. And as Bobby pointed out, it does take some leadership. And I'll tell you, as Mayor Sewell talked about, making a decision based on facts, it takes experience to make those decisions, not on-the-job training. Thank you.